Good morning, everyone. I'm Pallavi Ade, the co-founder of Asian Pathfinders, along with Shreyas Deshmukh, and welcome to another edition of our Fireside Chat. Today's session is on roadmap for India's defense production sector. We have Admiral Pritam Lal and Dr. Mayank Dwivedi speaking with us. So I'm just going to quickly go over our introduction because Dr. Dwivedi has another professional commitment that he has to be at. So Asian Pathfinders is a knowledge sharing platform. We started in 2020, and our aim is to bring scholars, practitioners, academicians together for constructive dialogues and discussions like we have today. We do that through our fireside chats and dialogues. And this month, we are holding sessions on India's defense production, priorities, defense sector, the priorities procurement production. So the third edition is a production. We've already done priorities and procurements over the course of this month. And our last session is going to be a dialogue, which is next Thursday, which is on the future of India's ISR capabilities. So we'll be posting details about it on social media. Guidelines, first and foremost, please stay on mute because we do record our sessions and put it on YouTube later. And like we say, respect the views of others, but please put in your question and comments in the chat section. So you can get in touch with us late on social media. And Tanishk is the moderator for today, but I'm just taking over for the first short time. I'll introduce Dr. Dwivedi and then I'll hand it over to Tanishk and Admiral Lal for the rest of the session. So, Dr. Mayank Dwivedi is a scientist G and has been appointed as a Directorate of Industry Interface and Technology Management at the DRDO HQ. He is ME in Polymer Technology from DCE, Delhi, and PhD in Advanced Composites from IIT Delhi. He's a recipient of gold medal in his ME. He's an alumnus of the prestigious National Defense College, New Delhi. He started his career from CPDC ASL Hyderabad in 1992. And during his initial years, he worked in the area of polymer composites and nanocomposites. He has worked in the area of stealth and radar absorbing systems. Major projects he has worked on are Agni missile, BrahMos missile, warhead technologies, and biomechanical devices. He has an expertise in the area of processing and structure property relationship of advanced composites. He has contributed on indigenization of high temperature resin systems and development of airframes. He has also contributed in identification of counter-LIC technologies and products. He has also worked on final phases of the implementation of the Ramurao Committee organizational restructuring, among others. And Dr. Dwivedi has a number of international publications and papers to his credit. He has delivered more than 80 lectures in various, 60 lectures in various international and national forums, and he has authored 2 books on nanotechnology. And lastly, he has been the recipient of the Lab Scientist of the Year in DRDO in 2003. So over to you, Dr. Dwivedi.
Thank you. Admiral Pritam Lal and Mr. Saxena, who is the moderator of the session, officials of Asian Pathfinders. And I can see very less participants, some 40 numbers. So all the participants and industrialists who are participating, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. I am thankful to Asian Pathfinders for extending me this invitation to talk about roadmap for Indian defense production sector. It's a very good topic, and basically when Dr. Satish Reddy asked me to deliver a talk on this, so I readily agreed, and then today I'm there in front of you. The point is very important thing I would like to tell you that today, if you see the India situation, the industries are coming up quite well. And today we are finding that the industries, the type of products, the type of technology they are coming up with, they are really very high class. But important thing is how to convert various we have got in India with us to convert into a tangible product. See, whenever we have the technology with you, until unless it goes into a product, the meaning of the technology is not understood by the user, and the technology has no meaning till it is used as a product. Towards that, if you see that what is government doing today to improve the defense manufacturing sector is a very big step the present government has taken. If I simply go through a few things where the present Indian government has done, right from that up to 200 crores, no import will be allowed. Then they made a positive list that more than 101 items, then again 109 items more they have added, that those items will not be imported at all. Then make one category is there, then make two categories there, make three categories for the indigenization has been brought in. So then if you see the various type of modes of supporting the industries like Startup India, Make in India, which started, so many things have come up. And industries have made full use of it. Because I am dealing with industries, more than 14,000 industries in DRDO ecosystem. We have 2,100 industries, which are really system integrated based on DRDO technologies. And apart from 2,100 industries, some 12,000 industries are there which are involved in the supply chain. So we deal with in a big way with the industries because industries are our mainstay. Whatever design and development we do in DRDO, that technology is transferred, the product details are transferred and supplied to the Indian Armed Forces and the user. But still, we have not come up to a level where we can say that what should be the roadmap, why that defense manufacturing sector is not able to do the way we were expecting. I think almost 5 or 7 years have happened since when these new policies and new systems have been brought in, and still things are coming up. Still, they are moving slowly. They have not come up in a very big way. The reason there are a few things. There are certain processes we have got for the induction of any product, the placement of supply order, the AON system, and finally the NCNC trial, and then GSC evaluation, etc. And after that, right from that requirement, the AON to induction, it takes 5 to 7 years. So industries, they do very calculative measuring that how to go about it so that they should not lose money at all, because finally industries and the companies are run to make profits. So I think those are the issues which have to be dealt into, and for that process we all put together, we have made many systems, many things which are much more conducive now. If you see DAP 2020, where the Make 1, Make 2 and Make 3, all three things have been brought in. They are towards only how to go about that the future defense manufacturing in a bigger way. But the thing which I will like to tell you here, because in a 10 to 12 minutes, what I can convey the message, if I tell you about the policies, etc., and so many things DRDO has done, like TOT, Technology Development Fund, IDEX, etc., then I will be telling the same thing which you can go through the internet. Speaker, it's my duty to tell you where are we lacking. We are lacking, number one, our industries, though they are being amply supported. Today, if you see the Make 2 program, here even DRDO is coming up in a big way to support the industries in Make 2. In Make 1, 70% government funding is being given to the industries. As far as the IDEX programs are there, TDF programs are there. There are to TDF, DRDO fund up to 10 crores to the industries to inculcate the R&D, and whatever product they make, there will be short supply orders are there. Even though industries are not able to come up in the defense, because I think a few places industries have to increase their appetite for risk also. In defense sector, it's a big game. The money is big, the investment is also big. If we think that we will not spend on R&D much and we will not develop our own inherent capabilities, I think it is not going to cut the ice. industries like L&T, Bharat Forge, Godrej, and all these big Tatas, they are doing quite well. Even many MSMEs like Data Pattern, I can tell you, Alpha Design, those people are doing quite well because they have invested to some extent in R&D, etc. also. And Anand Technologies, I can tell. Well, many names are there. I do not want to see. I deal with 14,000 industries, so I cannot name everybody. But some of them, they are quite well. But where this type of that expenditure is not there, that type of R&D investment is not there, there the problems are coming up. The second big problem which we are finding, the documentation. Whenever we visit the industries, we go for the technology transfer, we want to give them the technology developed by DRDO. I find when the documentation is not there, then certainly the quality assurance suffers. Then, in order to maximize the profit, reduce the cost, the type of ecosystem certain industries they develop, their ancillaries, I think there also the quality control is very much required. In defense products, there is nothing like B quality or B plus quality. It is always A plus quality. If industries are not alive to that requirement, that the quality, the type of essential, then we are going to lag. Another thing which I will have to dwell upon, we are still working on the products which are the legacy of the West. We are not working on the products and the technologies which we can say that we have done the first time in India. I think this is the area where every one of us have to focus on. DRDO has got very clear-cut doctrine. Whatever industries are capable of doing, DRDO will not get research. Because finally, whatever we do, whatever R&D we do, we transfer this technology to industry, and through industry, they go to the Indian Armed Forces and they go to the export market. Once industry have got that technology, that knowledge, that know-how, then there is no need to waste public money to reinvent the wheel, because already the industries are doing it. And like that, like drone systems, unmanned ground vehicles, bridging systems, so many things, DRDO has come out of it. Because the industries today have got the capabilities to do those things by themselves without any support from DRDO. But at the same time, it should not happen that industries, they go into collaboration mode in such a way that finally we are not able to have any of the technology within our control. Rather, with all the foreign collaboration, finally we find we have got the joint ventures or the type of companies where finally we do not have any stakes in the design and any stake in the final production. And this is not a good situation. So industry should be very much cautious about the IPRs also. When industries are developing any product and having any collaboration with the foreign countries or with anybody, like tell you a DRDO example, if some industry comes to DRDO and says that they want to get certain R&D support from DRDO, DRDO gives the complete R&D support. Like recently, L&T has taken the R&D support for certain software or some naval system. They wanted to export something. Then that time we provided the complete support, and the complete IPR of that particular system was given to L&T because L&T paid the money to DRDO to get this thing done, and then they supported L&T completely, and that's how the complete system. This is a thing which we have to very much focus on, because finally what capabilities we are developing within the industry, that is very important. See, making good business, getting a lot of collaboration. See, one collaboration you get, like before you got the collaboration, you got the complete technology of AB Sweden, and finally before Sweden, when they gave the technology, after before you could not make a single gun after that, because they do not give you the complete technology. In the sense, they give you know how to some extent, but not know why. Until date, I understand, if I'm not wrong, are being imported from AB before Sweden. What happens is whenever you go about any, even your automobiles, you go, whenever any technology you are getting from abroad, some major system, major parts, they are always be held by that foreign company, and they never give the company know why, know how, and know why also. Whereas when you develop your own technology and you develop with DRDO, you work with DRDO, DRDO when provide a technology transfer, DRDO ensure that DRDO gives the complete know why also. Complete inclusive growth, so that finally they are capable of making the new variants of the system by themselves, and their rights are there. Finally, whatever new variant has been made by the company, the industry in India, based on DRDO technology, the new variant complete marketing rights are given by DRDO to the industry. DRDO does not claim any right. The right example is enhanced Pinaka. Pinaka Mark 1 and Pinaka Mark 2 missile system were transferred to EER Nagpur. After that, the enhanced Pinaka system developed the enhanced version of Pinaka system. And now they are supplying it to Indian Armed Forces, and they are going for the export market, and that a complete marketing right is theirs. This is a very good sign. And this sign can only be done while you are working with that Indian R&D system, and that's how we are able to do it. That one more thing I will like to tell you: make 1, make 2, and make 3. The 3 things which have been made by the DAP 2020, they are really a very big thing. They are really big openers for industries. Make 1, lot of opportunities are there. Make 2, industries are queuing up. They are taking so many projects. I have recently seen there's more than some 100 projects have been taken, as I understand, and they are more than 100 industries have taken under Make 2, and they are collaborating with various people. And I am very happy to tell you that most of the industry are trying to collaborate with DRDO. Means when there is a requirement of OEM to support for that particular product, then that time they feel, yes, DRDO technologies are good enough, and they are coming to DRDO. Lastly, I will tell you a few things. Today, the DRDO technologies have matured to the extent. Today, we have transferred more than 1,390, almost touching 1,400 technologies. And industries are queuing up to take the DRDO technologies. It shows the maturity of the DRDO technologies. The DRDO technologies are the world class, and the industries have got the faith in DRDO's technologies. So I tell you, when already we have got so many technologies developed in India, and we are there for the industry to support, because our charter, as my director's charter, is to support industries so that industries may come up in defense manufacturing sector, and they can make India completely self-reliant and Atmanirbhar in the defense manufacturing. Today, if you talk about DRDO, we have already made the new procedure for government-owned company-operated policy. And this procedure tells that wherever DRDO wants a production to be done, like HMX plant, RDX plant, our rocket motor plants, where we want that it is a production-related work, not R&D-related work, we can invite industry, please come to our premises and operate our machines, produce the required products, and supply it to Indian Armed Forces and the user. That policy has been brought in just to support the industry. Earlier, TOT fee used to be 20% of the product development cost. Now it is 0 for all development partners and development and production partners. So we are supporting the industry. Also, no royalties being charged for the DRDO developed products being supplied by the industry to the Indian Armed Forces or any government agency. Only 2% royalty is charged wherever there is an export or a commercial viability of the product. So like that, so many things have been done for the industry, and whenever any new suggestion is coming from the industry side, we are trying to help the industry out and we are totally friendly to the industries in the sense, earlier, whenever any private industry is coming to government organization, and I think Admiral Lal will agree with me, then we were very much wary to talk to the private industries because no education should count on us, etc., etc. Now today, if you go to across all the DRDO labs, all force, army, everywhere we are very open to the private industries, and whenever new suggestion is coming, we are trying to implement so that we want to facilitate the industries. And yesterday I was reading Times of India, where the Prime Minister's statement was there. The Honorable Prime Minister told, whatever come in the way to make the new India, those procedures you kindly change. So we are truly doing that. Wherever we are finding any procedure, any thing which is coming in the way to push the new India, to push the defense manufacturing sector, to push our industries, we are trying to make a policy amendment and make the industry to be supported to the extent possible. We have realized one thing very well, lastly I will say, all over the world, the countries have become advanced countries because the governments of those countries have supported industries, private industries to the hilt. Whereas in India, probably we missed it. Today we realize it. We have to support our industries to the hilt if we want to make the country, India, as a developed nation. And I am sure that we all put together, we will be able to achieve this goal, and we will be successful making the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the self-reliant India. And of course, we are self-reliant in many ways. You talk about the radar system, you talk about the missile system, strategic systems, you talk about sonar systems, your communication system, now operating armament like ATACs, hand grenades, Pinaka rocket motors, various glide bombs, anything you talk about, we are becoming Atmanirbhar. And we will become Atmanirbhar soon fully. And this is the aim. And I think along with academia, along with the industries, we all put together, we can do wonders. We can make country self-reliant. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Dwivedi. That is great. And I think it summed up a lot of challenges that are there, but obviously where we've already made progress. So thank you for that. Sir, I'm not sure if you have time for one question, a quick one.
I can at least 1 or 2 questions I can reply.
Perfect, sir. So I'm going to give the first question myself, and there's another question from Tanishk. So my question, you spoke about the West legacy and how a lot of it is from there. So in terms of mine is, when we talk about DRDO and R&D, that's the foremost organization when we look at research and development for defense. So how does the DRDO work with first the armed forces? And I think, how do we get in the industry, especially the small and medium industry, to develop indigenous technologies which the West hasn't done? How do we promote that, especially the SMEs, but also the other industry? And I think Tanishka's question is, I'll just say it here, is how do these defense exhibitions and promote events that are held, how do they contribute to the development of the Indian defense manufacturing industry?
The first question I will tell you, the MSMEs, etc., what you asked, how do we involve and how do we engage them? Let me tell you, our mainstay in our ecosystem and complete supply chain is the MSMEs. When I talk about the 14,000 industries are working with us in the ecosystem, primarily they are SMEs. Here, DRDO does not take up any project, please note it, without involvement of the industry. Industry partners are appointed right from the beginning in the project initiation. And any project is completed with the development partner. The development partner is always an industry. And there might be one industry, two industry, or might be 400 or 500 industries. Like you talk about the ATACs, Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System. There are two lead system integrators, Bharat Forge and Tata Advanced Systems Limited. There are two lead system integrators, and there are 462 industries in the supply chain. There are 464 industries are working when we are talking about the Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System. So with the Akash missile system, Akash missile, there are 256 industries are working in the ecosystem. Like that, in every system we go about, everywhere the ecosystem is there, and we ensure those ecosystems, that the ecosystem, whatever we develop, we never leave them. Because once the trust is developed, once they are working with us, they are the industries for us for the future programs also. So if any problem like that, cost competitiveness, quality competitiveness, or schedules, there are some problem is there, that can be introduced another industry in the ecosystem. Otherwise, all the industries are engaged right from the beginning of the project, and we look after our industries quite well. This is one part. The second thing, when we are having these exhibitions, etc., how do we handle them and what benefit do we get? See, let me tell you, when we are having these exhibitions, etc., these to expose the technology prowess of India. It is not that DRDO is showing its technology prowess. DRDO through industry is showing its technology prowess. Whatever the product item, that systems you see on display, they are all manufactured by the industries. And nowadays we have made the practice that we always mention in our export compendium. We have made export compendium where each and every product developed by DRDO which is worthy for export. There are 156 products are there, which are there on the DRDO website also. Names and addresses and email details, everything is mentioned. Why? Because we want to show the technology prowess so that we want to promote export. Well, our Honorable Prime Minister has given a call that $5 billion that defense export should take place by 2025. And for that, we are working hard and we are getting a lot of export inquiries. And when we go for in these exhibitions, many times, many people are not able to come and meet in our Army headquarters and DRDO headquarters. But when there is an exhibition, then such type of business meetings are possible. Security hazards. Otherwise, the security hazards are enough. Suppose you want to come to DRDO Bhavan to meet me with a laptop, then I have to take some special security permission from Army. Then only you can bring your laptop. And nevertheless, whenever you are coming, your mobile cannot enter in my office. The mobile will be deposited at the security gate itself. So the point is, those type of security hazards, etc., are not there whenever we are having such exhibitions. That's why they are quite beneficial for the development of the business in the defense area.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to move on to you, Tanishk, and I'll give you the mic now.
So, sir, if you permit me, may I take leave?
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Tanishk very briefly. So Tanishk is the Executive Outreach Associate, Research and Operations at the Organization for Research on China and Asia. He's also been a Program Associate with Asian Pathfinders, and he holds a Master's in International Relations as well as an undergraduate in Law. So over to you, Tanishk.
Thank you, Pallavi, for giving me an opportunity to moderate this session. And I would like to first briefly tell you summary about Dr. Mayank's speech. So he talked about what are the government contributions made by the government and how things are moving so slowly and how the priorities of the industries that they don't want to lose money being there. And one of the things that I found really interesting is so there's as he mentioned that there's less of competition between DRDO and other industries and more of contribution that DRDO makes. And now I'll introduce, not taking much time, Admiral Pritam Lal, Rear Admiral Pritam Lal. So he served in the Indian Navy for 35 years in various senior management roles across administration, policy formulation and implementation, technology evaluation and induction, equipment system design and development with DRDO and industry, equipment lifecycle support, planning and management, operation and management of industrial establishments. A graduate in electrical engineering and postgraduate in radar communication from both IIT Delhi. Retired from Navy on 31st December 2013. He was serving as a technical manager, marine and systems in acquisition of wings of Ministry of Defense at the time of retirement. Wish list in service as a member of various internal committees of MOD, participated in formulation of DPP 2013, make procedural and offset guidelines. Post-retirement associated with various activities in defense sector in the capacity of a domain expert. He is associated with Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, since 2015 and since mid 2015, SIDM since 2000 August 18. In various programs as an independent advisor consultant for defense and aerospace sector. For your opening remarks.
Thank you. So I'd like to use a small presentation. If you can enable me to share my screen, it will be good.
So I just did that. Yes, sir.
Right, I think that will do. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So at the outset, let me just thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the topic of roadmap for India's defense production sector. I think Dr. Dwivedi has set the context very well. He brought out a couple of very important points. One, of course, Tanishk also mentioned that DRDO, the manner in which it connects with the Indian private industry has been doing a human service in bringing up the industry into the ecosystem, either as technology partners, sometimes as a production partner, but more often than not as tiered vendors who do small odd jobs for them. But he highlighted one very important point that was related with the development of the domestic defense industry ecosystem, and that was government support for the private industry is very important if you want to actually develop an industry ecosystem. And believe you me, none of the countries that today boast of very vibrant and major defense industries in their countries, they've all done the same thing. They have fed their industries with the R&D funds. They have fed their industries with regular orders year after year so that they can maintain the capacity that they have created to support the armed forces of their country. If you do not give business to your industry, how will they survive? How will their investments grow or remain active? So my idea will be through a few slides to try and build that picture of the defense industry ecosystem that, in my opinion, will come into being in maybe a decade from now. So I'll try and do this with a set of series of thoughts that I will share with you. First, of course, is on the policy framework. It's only proper, well articulated, clear and stable policy framework that can permit industry to actually make investments and stay invested for long. Only in case they make investments and stay invested, there can be a really vibrant or stable defense industry ecosystem. And more so in the defense, because there is only one buyer, and that is the government. If nobody else can buy, then what will the industry do with this thing? Second aspect that I would like to throw some light upon is what is the status of the Indian defense production as on 2020, that is financial year 2021. Some figures of production and participation of the level of participation of the industry will do good. And of course, finally, I would like to formulate some sort of a crystal gaze for what the Indian defense production sector would be like in, say, 10 years from now, basis the policy framework, basis the nature of defense budgets that are presently coming in. So let me start with this. You're all familiar with these. So idea is some of these things have been mentioned by Dr. Dwivedi, but I would only try to supplement those views with a relevant comments about the status and outlook of the private industry as far as the overall defense production sector is concerned. In my opinion, this is a very, very important phase of the development and consolidation of the Indian defense production sector. A lot has happened during the last 10 years under the Make in India and the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, as we call it now. And some of the major policy planks that have been unleashed by the government, which have created enthusiasm, which have created aspirations for the private industry. I've listed some of them. For example, the public procurement preference for Make in India Order 2017, which has been, it has been amended in 2020. It prohibits global tenders of value less than 200 crores. And wherever there is a global tender, then also it gives purchase preference for the Indian defense industry, particularly when the Indian industry is doing local value addition of more than 50%. Those are called class 1 local suppliers. The defense production and export promotion policy that was initially discussed in 2018, but finally, listed out in 2020, is a fantastic policy. It lays down a very, very clear roadmap for building capabilities for design, development, and manufacturing of a host of military capabilities by the Indian industry. And of course, it has got certain objectives of creating domestic defense production of 170,000 crores by 2025, out of which 35,000 crores will be exports. Then enhancing the FDI to 74% through automatic route in the defense sector is an invitation to the foreign companies to come and set up shop in India, manufacture in India on their own or in partnership with the Indian industry. That will bring in probably fresh investments. We have been using imported capabilities, that is platforms and systems, all sorts of military platforms and systems since maybe 6 decades. There are a large number of legacy systems for which the Indian armed forces are now finding difficulties in providing life cycle support, sustenance. So government has now promulgated an indigenization policy in 2018, under which every user, Army, Navy, Air Force, and all manufacturers, ordnance factories, as well as DPSUs, have been mandated to reduce imports, find innovative indigenous solutions for supporting the legacy systems. This policy alone can create business worth 20,000 crores per year for the Indian private industry or Indian industry in general. The next major plank that happened last year was deciding to put up a negative list for imports or positive list for indigenization, as it is called. Under this, the government has listed some 209 types of platforms and weapon systems which will not be imported, or rather progressively they will be procured only from the Indian industry. That means this, of course, timetable is from 2020 to 2025, but I think it's a positive step. It gives a long-term business visibility. It gives a very advanced information to the Indian industry in case they are keen to make investments in those areas where the government has decided not to import. DRDO projects through development come production partners. I think Dr. Dwivedi mentioned enough about it. And let me tell you that this is a very, very important plank, policy plank that has been done by them, because through this, you develop Indian industry to become defense industries. Many industries that are not otherwise connected with the defense sector can get connected with the defense sector through a hand-holding process of the DRDO, and that's a good process, because in fact, I would not hesitate to say that even all the major defense industry, private defense industry today, actually they have come through this route, be it Larsen and Toubro, be it Tata Power SCD, be it Bharat Forge. In fact, Dr. Dwivedi himself mentioned that they have given them technology, they have partnered with them for manufacturing those systems, and therefore they have taken lead. I will explain this further. The most enabling feature of the policy framework that exists today is the Defense Acquisition Policy Procedure 2020. In fact, this procedure actually incorporates every other policy that I have stated previously. I will not like to go into each of the major features of this procedure, but certainly the procedure actually seeks to place private and public at the forefront. It focuses on building the industry capability through MAKE projects, through IDEX, that is Innovation for Defense Excellence Scheme, through the Technology Development Fund, and through, most importantly, strategic partnership model for creating new major private industries in the defense sector. And just to sum it up, this is how it works. What this picture actually shows is how long-term planning of the armed forces, that is integrated capability development plans, which are 10-year plans, are being utilized to create sharp focus towards creating design and development capabilities and providing long-term business opportunities to the private industries as well as the public industries. So if I see it, please see the greenish color on top. Early stages of the development plan, all such projects where the indigenous capabilities do not exist are identified. Those projects, rather than going through the acquire route, are taken through the design and development route. This design and development route could be with the DRDO or without DRDO, right? And after that, once the industry undertakes the prototype development, carries out the trials, then the acquisition is done through the Buy Indian or Make in India categories, Buy Indian, IDDM, Buy Indian, and so on and so forth. But that acquisition pipeline, a 5-year business pipeline is shown to the industry so that they are actually invested and they remain invested. The second important thing that comes here is such projects where we do not at this stage want to enter into a design and development plan, because that will take decades to build capabilities. The strategic partnership models are being chosen so that we can bring in technology from abroad, matured technologies and products from the foreign OEMs, but create capabilities in the Indian industry to build them, and in the process also develop capabilities for them to design future upgrades of those products. So this is the major enabler for development of the Indian industry, both public and private. So in a way, I would say DA the policies that the government had so far created to develop the Indian private industry. Let me take you to the next part of my viewpoints, and that is, what is the status of the Indian defense production today? In just one slide, let me just try to sum it up. In 2020-21, defense production was 84,760 crore, and we did an export of 8,400 odd crores. But most of the exports were contributed because of the offset obligations that were done by the part. Second important plank that has come with a 60%, 64% of the budget, capital budget, almost 1 lakh of the 1,13,000 crores is allocated for disbursal to the domestic industry during the financial year 2021-22. 6% of the defense budget is allocated for R&D. Only thing is that most of this R&D budget, which is about 20,000 crores, goes to only DRDO. Very little, about 50 crore is spent to the private industry through TDF, and maybe another 400 crores over a period of 5 years will be. But majority of it is only for the DRDO. Okay. There are some other important things that need to be mentioned in the production sector. One, whatever the state, whatever the level of technology, today actually all major types of platforms, weapon systems, missiles and ammunition are manufactured by the Indian industry, public and private put together. Ships, submarines, aircraft, helicopters, missiles, host of ammunitions, avionics and weapon equipment systems are manufactured by them, be it through a technology developed indigenously through DRDO or on their own. So there is enough indigenous platform design capability that has also been brought into the industry. We design ships. We design the most complex destroyers and missile frigates in India. A fighter aircraft Tejas is already there. A series of helicopters are also there with the HAL. All types of land mobility platforms are designed by the three major industries in India: Ashok Leyland, Tata's and Mahindra's. On the anvil with DRDO and industry, BrahMos and Akash and Nag and name it, and it's there. Okay. The key here is two important things that I wanted to bring out. 80% of the production is still in the public sector. Only 20% over the last 20 years has gone to public sector, private sector. However, 90% of the exports out of the 8,400 odd crores that are named is being done by the private industry. This industry, which is characterized as a monopoly, it still has certain dependencies that we need to take care of, that of course government needs to take care of by designing several policies. And the key and critical raw materials for aviation platforms, armored vehicles, are still imported. Be it alloys, be it aluminum alloys, titanium alloys, other exotic materials, armored, steels and things like that. Second thing is, there are certain core systems of all the platforms that we develop. We still import from them. For example, we design ships, but we do not have a propulsion plant for any ship or submarine. They have to be imported. Similarly, we have designed aircrafts and helicopters, but the propulsion plants, the engines, the jets, those things still are imported. Landing gear, major parts of the weapon systems and avionics are still imported. Wherever we have designed the weapon systems in India, we still import all critical parts because we do not have, ecosystem of electronic component manufacturing, especially high-end electronic component manufacturing. Okay, there are many contemporary technology assets which are still importing. All the UAVs, underwater autonomous vehicles, autonomous ground vehicles, they're being imported. Many smart and precision ammunitions are being imported. I'm sure you've heard about these things again. To such a point that we still import small arms. A sniper rifle had to be imported. We are putting up a factory to manufacture sniper rifles, but that'll take another 5 years. So, having created a defense production ecosystem 6 decades ago, more than 6 decades ago, there are still many critical areas where our ecosystem has to build. And I thought I must highlight it as I go through. So I take you to the next part, and that is the industry landscape. That is what we actually, whole discussion today was supposed to be on this. So this picture shows you the landscape of the Indian defense production sector. For the last 5 decades, this has been dominated basically by the public industry, who are the system integrators, platform integrators. What I'm saying is DPSUs and ordnance factories were the major players, and even bigger player in this ecosystem were foreign OEMs, because 60% that existed 10 years ago, even today it is, foreign OEMs are the decades, even today. The policy framework that we have decided, that we have now in place, seeks to this whole defense production sector's landscape in certain ways. Now, this is how it's going to change. One, industries are now being selected as the strategic partners. These strategic partners will come in the niche segments like manufacturing of fighter aircrafts, helicopters, submarines, and armored fighting vehicles. DRDO policy of bringing in private industries as their development cum production partners is going to create new champion industries in the defense sector, because they will be associated with their development activities ab initio, at the initial stages itself, and on completion of the trials of the prototypes, they will become the OEMs. They will hold the IP along with the this thing. Because of the preference for Make in India, because of the policy to keep the Indian industry in front, a lot of joint ventures have been formed between foreign OEMs and Indian industries. Of course, these are led by the Indian industry. Okay, so they have received technology, they have received investments, and these JVs will be vibrant part of, this will be a main part of the ecosystem that is going to actually emerge during the next 10 years. Lastly, because of the enhanced FDI policy for enhanced FDI through automatic route as well as through the government route, the foreign OEMs are being encouraged to create 100% owned subsidiaries if they like, but manufacture it in India and make India like a manufacturing hub for global supplies of their systems and their products. So this is how it's going to change. Now, basically, the DAP itself has allowed participation of entities that are not necessarily owned and controlled by the Indian citizens. If you have, some of you may have studied the DAP 2020, there is a definition for the Indian vendor in that. And that definition itself articulates how the various categories of acquisition schemes will enable participation of joint ventures of the foreign OEMs, 100% owned subsidiaries of the foreign OEMs. So two things have happened. Through this policy, while giving preference for the Indian industries, government has brought in an additional competitive element for the Indian industries. Those competition, which is foreign OEMs and their subsidiaries, while they will bring investment, while they will bring technology, they will also compete with the Indian ecosystem. So this is how, in my opinion, Indian defense production sector is going to look like in 10 years from now. I think the transformation has already started. Transformation has already started. I'm sure you are aware that Tatas have been selected. In fact, they have already got the contract for manufacturing of C-295 aircrafts in India. RFP for manufacturing of submarines, Project 75 India, has already been issued. Larsen & Toubro is one of the contenders along with the public shipyards. Similar things are happening in the armored fighting vehicle space. Similar things are likely to happen in the helicopter manufacturing and the fighter aircraft space. So I think we are in for good times. Private industry should be thoroughly enthused with the nature of long-term business opportunities that the defense sector is throwing up in India, both for them as well as foreign OEMs who can collaborate and partner with them to provide what the Indian armed forces need for their modernization during the next decade. I will like to stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to discuss and take it. Right. So I will take the presentation of the shared part. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Your opening remarks were like quite elaborative in like the law. You talked about the long-term plans that the industry has, and there's one thing I found out from your comments was like the lack of farsightedness, or like there's the request of defense requirement that is made by the like armed forces, the end users needs, and it requires like time for research and development. So there's a need of farsightedness in the industry that I could get. And one question that I have for you is both China and United States have accelerated like their new equipments like laser weapons and electromagnetic pulse weapons, and India is upgrading its B-70 and aircraft artillery to make them drone killers. So how is like this recycling and how we are like reusing our past technology? So are like private companies and the defense sector also looking at that, like how we are doing?
I think so. I think so. They are looking at it. I am sure you are aware of the anti-drone solution that has already been put in place by the DRDO. It was used for protection of the RD parade, Independence Day parades also. It has been already deployed in certain sensitive locations. It is laser based. It also uses other technologies for anti-drone systems. I think India has already demonstrated an anti-satellite weapon. So I see it's like this. In the military capabilities, this race of matching the adversary or going one up over the adversary will continue. We invest $60 billion per year into our defense sector for their defense forces. The US has a budget of $600+ billion for their armed forces. China also has a budget which is $260 billion plus. So I'm sure we cannot match how much they can put in their defense industry or into procuring or creating more modern weapons for their armed forces. But given the limited inputs, investments, resources that are budgetary resources that are available, I think each participant, each stakeholder in the defense ecosystem also, Indian defense ecosystem, will also be trying to do the same. It takes time. There are limitations, but it's a part of the evolution of our defense sector. I already brought out many critical areas where in 6 decades we haven't come up.
Yes.
But it will happen. Hopefully it will. I'm hopeful. I'm positive.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So there's a question from audience. Rajiv Kumar has asked, research and D&D initiatives like IDEX, TDF provide limited funding to tap potential for startups and MSMEs. These initiatives are important, but much less compared to global innovation leaders. Isn't there a need to enhance these innovation support fundings?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with him. Positively, the funding that is available under TDF is limited to 10 crores. Funding under IDEX or grant under IDEX is only limited to about 1.5 crores. And they are not they're not big, considering that for defense, you are always working with the niche technologies. And many times expensive inputs are required for building the prototypes. So positively, I agree there is a need to enhance the level of funding from project to project, because high value projects should have higher funding, and lesser value projects should have proportionately lesser funding. But I think a very positive start has been made in 2018. Till then, the private industry never got R&D funding. At least some funds have started flowing. So I think give ourselves time, participate enthusiastically. I think more funds should flow. Okay, we believe you me, till 2018, not a single paisa was being given to private industry for R&D.
Yes.
All money was going to DRDO. Now they have said, okay, I'll give 500 crores during the next 5 years as far as IDEX is concerned, and they are giving at least 50 crores per year for TDF. In fact, they have already surpassed 100 crores this year. So I think they are increasing. The pie is small, the number of participants are more, but I think good.
Yes, so there have always been issues for a level playing field, because like many of companies get support from DRDO and others don't, so and they have like resources. These have been issues that have been brought up. And sir, it's already 12. Would you be like able to continue for 10 more minutes so that we can have 2 more questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a question from Shreyas. So he asks, in the access to the DRDO trial facilities and the application procedure to that has been considered most impedient, is government planning facilities?
There's a new scheme. First of all, government has never prohibited private sector for building test facilities, right? Only thing is, wherever such facilities were to be used, licenses are required and they should get that. Okay. But government has now launched a scheme called Defense Testing Infrastructure Scheme. They've allocated 400 crores and they will subsidize 75% of the capital inputs for such testing facilities. Okay. So I think so. They can create, private sector can also create capability, this thing, testing infrastructure, and more funds that are being given under the Defense Testing Infrastructure Scheme. Okay.
Yeah. Sir, my question is like India shares it's a final question. So India shares a long border with China, and after the 1996 border agreement, like in the border areas, we couldn't, it's not allowed to carry guns. And with the recent Galwan clashes, and that happened, saddened incident. And then there are images of Chinese soldier practicing with nunchakus and other like on-site training. So it does like it's like the scope of DRDO, about the scope of DRDO and private. Do we like also work on these kinds of weapons that are like not like guns, but or for like for our India-China border specifically?
Okay. So I'm not an expert on those policy things on the border issues and all that, but let me tell you, only 4 days ago, there was a news item which said that India is working on a similar kind of weapons, which they will be giving to all their soldiers. I think it was less than 4 days ago when this news was released. Okay, something like they're working on it. They have already equipped their soldiers with that. It's already there in the public domain. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much.
Pass it on to Pallavi.
Mr. Shreyas.
Thank you so much, Admiral Lal, for joining us today, and Tanishk for moderating the session, and obviously Dr. Dwivedi, who joined us earlier. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you in our future sessions. Have a good weekend, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.